What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Scarlet and Great here on the Chat Sports Network. Please subscribe to this channel. We hope you will as we continue to cover more Buckeye coverage, University of Michigan blunders, and everything in between. So please subscribe to the channel if you want to stay clued in on the Buckeyes. Real quick, we're going to talk about Ohio State surviving against Nebraska 21-17. And the Buckeyes survive again, what we call a close game here. What a game that was a little bit closer than many predicted. Now I'm going to go ahead and say a lot closer than most of us predicted. So myself and Florida Corey are going to try to see where we go from here because I'm a little lost. I'm going to probably defer to Corey a lot in this show because I don't know really what to say. So real quick, I do want your comment on this before we get into it. 21-17 against Nebraska. Comment just simple yes or no or why or in the comment section. Is that the Buckeye standard? Because I want to know. My personal answer is no. Corey's going to say no. Now I'm trying this new Zen, like chill Buddhist thing. I'm not a Buddhist, but I'm just saying, like, I'm trying this new thing where I'm like, it doesn't.
What kind of Zen are we talking here?
Not that kind, not our kind. But hope he's okay. But no, all week I've been told why, it's not that bad, and I'm negative Nancy, and all season really. And then I just kind of like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong for wanting the Buckeyes to be elite in the top of the heap. So we're going to get into that. Again, want your comment, yes or no, if this is the Buckeye standard. And real quick, allow us just this brief second. What keeps the lights on here is partners and sponsors. And I do want to let you know that we are brought to you by Columbus Pro Handyman. Please give them a call at 614-887-6360 or columbusprohandyman.com. Columbus is the fastest growing city in the nation. With that comes a lot of commercial and residential needs. Now, if you need anything done as far as small projects, major remodels, or just little appliance installations, anything small to great, call the folks at Columbus Pro Handyman. Tell them Scarlet and Great sent you. You get a 10% discount. And, you'll get good, honest work from honest people right there in the Columbus area. So, again, call Columbus Pro Handyman or find them at columbusprohandyman.com. Okay. Corey, the question, where do we go from here? I'm going to just defer to you and say, last week I was pretty much telling a group of our friends that, look, guys, this is not a like, oh, maybe we were right there, or maybe this was almost our game against Oregon. We were not ready for that game. Oregon outplayed us, and we should have lost it by more. And I just said, look, this kind of everything we slipped up on was like classic Buckeye blunders over the last few years in the Ryan Day regime. Even with this immensely talented roster, it looked like you just put different numbers on the same players from years past, making the same mistakes, et cetera, et cetera. Our friend Brandon Moses came up with a question for me then, and he said, like, so what's your answer then? What do you tell Buckeye Nation? Where do you go from there? And he wasn't trying to be a jerk. I was taken back from the question. I was just like, I don't know. I'm not the answer. I think most fans, and Brandon certainly tries to be very optimistic, and they say, well, it can't just be that we don't have the pieces and we don't have the coaches and we don't have the staff and we don't have the culture. And I'm like, yeah, that's where I was last week. Where do we go from there is, I don't know, you hope that the stars align. You hope for 2014. We talk about 2014 like it's the standard that a team improves that much at the end of the season. I don't think that. I think that's more of an anomaly than the rule. Yeah. But Corey, I kind of backed off and just said, look, I'm just going to be like most other fan bases. Hey, guys, we win some, we lose some. I'm just going to be happy to see my team go fight and play. I'm no longer going to say natty or bust because this team doesn't look anything like a natty contender. And I'm just going to chill and watch the games because apparently I'm the jerk for trying to hold them to the standard that they all told me they had this year. I know for a fact Chip Kelly was telling NFL staffers that this team was really, really good in the offseason. So I'm not one to believe message board hype and all that, but I saw the moves. I could see the roster from my own eyes. I got high hopes because of all this. So Corey, what? Corey, what? Where
do we go from here is the question, right? Well, we go to Happy Valley. That's all we can say, because there's no way any Buckeye fan could look at that game and feel confident about it. And you want to be a rah-rah guy, rah-rah gal, and go team, go. I don't think we could. I don't have a lot of faith in Penn State either. Do I think we can beat them? And of course, I think we can beat them. But do I think we can beat them playing like we did today? Probably not. Johnny, I was giving it a wait and see approach because Oregon's such a tough game to judge it by. We lost by 1 on the road. It's like there's a margin of error there. You could think, okay, well, if we clean some things up, we could be a really good football team. But I remember telling you, if we win by 3 touchdowns against Nebraska, I feel pretty confident where we're at. But if we win by 3, which we won by 4 today, obviously, then I say sound the alarms. And I'm at sound the alarms. Something's wrong. Something's very, very wrong with this team. I will say this: the interesting thing about this game, though, is the defense played okay.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody says, "Oh, they played great." I was like, I don't know. Dylan flat out missed 2 touchdowns. He flat out missed.
Bad one.
Yeah, and Jermaine fell down on one in the end zone. It was all the way in the corner of the end zone. The other one was he was running free towards the end zone. He just overthrew him. That's not great defense. That's just getting lucky when you want to go down to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the defense, I will say, the only thing that looked like this is an anomaly for Ohio State. We noticed the front 7 just can't get to the quarterback, can't make tackles for loss, can't get off blocks, whatever. They finally addressed a problem and improved on it, right? 13 tackles for loss and 3 sacks is a night and day difference from what we were seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I can say they at least addressed an issue.
Can I
go ahead.
Ask one question real quick?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Would it be fair to say, though, we always knew we could get home against weak teams, and Nebraska's front is a far cry weaker than Oregon's?
I'm not suggesting it's solved. Okay. I'm just saying this is a sign that they had looked at.
Yeah. I can be with that. Yeah.
No, we got to do it against Penn State. We got to do it against Indiana. We got to do it against team up north. And if you somehow get through those games and get to Oregon, and you got to show it against Oregon, flat out.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is not proven until you get far deep into the playoffs and you're doing it week to week. This is not proven. But right now I can say, well, they at least know they had something wrong and they tried, because they did stunts today. They did disguise blitzes and things like that. They did all that, and they got a really good showing from the front 7.
Mm-hmm.
The back 4, yikes.
Mm-hmm.
They're regressing, and Iggy's handsy. He keeps grabbing people. Burke still getting beat deep. He seems to have that Kendall Sheffield thing where people can catch John no matter what. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're good on the line. They make good tackles at the line of scrimmage. They sniffed out every screen pass, but they can't cover anybody past 10 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like. So that's a problem. And so I will say the defense played okay. I give them a B minus, type grade. I mean, and again, we stopped them on 4th and goal, whatever. Nice stop, but geez, you're just driving down the field on you. This offensive line, if Josh Fryer is your best offensive tackle because Simmons is out, you're not winning a championship. Forget it. That's not happening. And I'm not even saying Fryer's playing that bad. He's not. But he still shouldn't be your best offensive tackle.
No. We counted on him being good enough a number 2, put him on the non-blind side. That was his.
He can run block pretty decently.
Yeah,
exactly. He's probably more suited to play guard, but he'll do type of thing. Like Darryl Baldwin on our national title team, that type of player. Not going to ever sniff the NFL probably, but, he's a solid college player. Jimmy Simmons was on his way to being a first-round draft pick. He was easily the cream of the crop of the offensive line. So, and we lost absolutely the one we could not lose. So, and I actually thought Zen would be okay because he did okay against Oregon. I thought he'll be okay. He won't be great. Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness! Wow! Wow, Johnny. They said all 2 weeks, man, he's looked great in practice. They're not even going to help him. He don't need it. Wow.
What are the chances? This is what I of course, maybe the coaches aren't going to sound the alarm, but I told everybody, look, they watched him get bench pressed for 2 weeks in practice and said, man, he's better than the next guy. And then you go, how do you get like that at Ohio State? How do you get where you got to bring in people from the portal? Like in Corey, I want to highlight something you said. Josh Pryor, maybe we hide him a little bit. Maybe he's good enough, Mm-hmm. And then on the other side, you're doing that with a little bit. Donovan Jackson's not been that good, but you can hide him a little bit because you got a really good left tackle right next to him. Now you have your weakest O lineman next to your second weakest O lineman right on the blind side when you have Zen and Donovan Jackson. You didn't just lose a player at that point. You like lost your best player and you replace him with the worst, and then your second worst is right next to him. That's like isn't that kind of like a exponential effect?
Thing is, I don't know who's worse, Jackson or Tegra /67. Because Tegra's inconsistent. 67, I see him get blown up all the time. And I'm kind of tired of seeing him in the game. Donnie's like average, but he's good for those lookout blocks like 2, 3, 4 times a game. It's like, I remember you and I used to debate a little bit. It's like, no, I thought he's a little better than you say. Now I'm totally on Johnny's side. I'm like, no, every game, every freaking game. It doesn't matter.
Well, what's weird is they get older and they seem to get worse to the point where, and sense. You would think if anything, you would be validated because time is on your side, like development and time, like, maybe I was actually technically right and he wasn't that good as a sophomore or junior, but the next year he gets better and you can say like, look at me, I was right. And they got
but that's the thing is I try to give people time. I really do. I do.
Yeah.
And now I'm seeing the same crap from sophomore and junior year and the senior year. Okay, you are what you are. You're average at best.
Burke and Igbinosun's another example. If anything, there's regression there.
Exactly. There is a lot of regression there. Iggy last year, I thought was like, man, how did we steal this guy? Holy crap. Now I'm like, please don't get a PI. Please put Matthews in. I don't care. Do something. And Burke, I swear last year, it never heard his name. He was so good. This year, they're throwing at him constantly. I don't know what
his freshman year. His freshman year, it was like, hey, we got this freshman we could play. Hey, we're going to play him. Hey, we're going to start him. Hey, he's pretty good. Like, he's not a liability. That's going to be a heck of a ball. Oh, by the end of his freshman year, it's like, hey, I think he's our best cover corner. Yeah. And then now it's like people are taking the ball and going, how like they say, Joe Burrow and Mahomes will just be like, hey, screw it, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase down there. So I think quarterbacks are doing that in reverse. Screw it, Denzel Burke's in coverage somewhere. Throwing at him. Like
the pre-snap read had Denzel on my left, so I'm just throwing it to my left. Somebody will be open.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's why I think this is what we just hit on: development. I want to know everybody's opinion in the comments here. Is Ohio State any good at player development? The reason I was kind of checked out after 2 weeks ago's game is because I said, I've witnessed what we do, and there's not very much of that. Hey, you're pretty good one year and you get better the next and even better the next. The only time I can think of where a guy like got revolutionary like level better was Tommy Two Thumbs. What was right here in Cleveland, linebacker.
Tommy Eichenberg?
Tommy Eichenberg went from he can't play here to it's all Big Ten,
It was pretty interesting to see his progression.
Yeah, but I am just so it's so steady that I see things like what's happening with Burke, what's happening with the O lineman. We had
I'm scared for Caleb Downs.
Oh gosh, yeah, I am too. Poor Jeremiah Smith. This is going to be his best year.
Best
year.
So I will say this: receiver wise, we do tend to get better.
That's true, or at least not regress.
Yeah.
At least
you
at
can't
the
say
very
Emeka's
least.
regressing. Emeka's actually playing better than he ever has, probably.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think he's a little underrated because what doesn't go in the stat sheet is the PIs that he's forced this year. So he's a nice player. There's some bright spots, but to think that the Ohio State hasn't shown me in season that guys that need help to get better can get coached up and get better. Like, it's not a thing we do here.
Jimmy Simmons, the only example I can remember that's not a receiver, where he started off the season really slow, and then he just progressively got better last season.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give Fry credit for that, because look at the rest of them.
When he didn't, and Simmons didn't come from here. Remember, we had to go.
Well, no, but he transferred here and he started off bad, and I'm thinking that Fry just developed him. But I mean, no, because I mean, look at everybody else. I don't have any other evidence of it. I mean, you could say Fryer's gotten marginally better, but like Donnie Jackson's a 5-star otherworldly guy that should have been, like
we thought he might be a tackle. We thought he might be a left tackle, and I'm looking at his high school film.
And now they won't even put him out there instead of Zen Milkowski. Yikes!
Yeah, how do you get at it? So that's okay, Corey. I want to know before we get in this. I want to know everybody's take. Do you fire Ryan Day at the say? Look, if I'm Vegas right now, Ohio State's not the favorite in that game.
Not even close.
Now, history would tell us that I don't trust James Franklin either, and that we kind of have their number. But if going into it, if there was a time it was going to happen, it would be this time. So if you do that and you're out for the Big Ten championship, if Ohio State doesn't win Big Ten championship this year, do you get rid of Ryan Day? Yes or no? I'd like your thoughts on that. Corey says yes. I think so. Here's the thing, Corey. Am I the fool?
Yes.
Because in the show,
I don't even know what the question is.
Am I the fool because I thought Ohio State reality check was on the heels of schools like Alabama and Georgia, just right there, just needed a few things. And then all these moves this offseason, I was like, okay, we're there. We're ready to do that thing like what we did with Urban, where we jumped onto the scene and we took a title. Maybe we go back then to fighting to catch them again, but every now and then we jump in, kind of almost like what LSU does, right? They regret, but we don't. Our floor is much higher than their floor, but kind of like that. Am I a fool for believing that Ohio State, that the end goal is national championships and that should be the standard, and that I should grade these guys tough? Because I've graded them tough all year, because I've graded them through the lens of national champion title contenders and the standard of the Big Ten.
No, you are 1,000% justified in feeling how you feel. I completely agree with you. This isn't a school that like had to have bake sales to get enough money to get, to put players together or whatever. That we have our best roster ever is like an 85 on the college football rating, as far as video game is concerned, or something like that. This is a program that is just funneling a ton of money from the inside and outside sources to get this freaking team, the roster, up to snuff and give Ryan Day everything he's wanted, including freaking Chip Kelly's your offensive coordinator, for crying out loud. I mean, it's just like, but again, you say, well, we're this much short, or we got a couple I agree with you having a couple, and not to mention they're even saying title or bust. Denzel Burke says it every time. Can't cover anybody 10 yards down the field, but he thinks national titles within sight. So no, you're not a fool at all. This is what we're chasing. We want to be national champions, and we have the ability to do it. We have the resources to do it. There's no reason we can't do it. We're a national recruiter. We have plenty of tens of millions of dollars to put into a roster. There's no excuse. There's none. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not expecting to win it every year and go on some kind of Bama-like run.
Right.
But I expect to be in competition for it year after year. And
it's the 10th year anniversary, Corey.
I know. It's like, come on.
Did we get one a decade? We're fools for expecting that?
At Ohio State, this isn't Kentucky where it's like 9 wins is an achievement, It's like this. Look, we and here's the thing that hurts. We're always right there. Like,
Well,
always.
that's what two things, Corey, you just brought up. We have the money. NIL's new, fine, solved it. Maybe we had a rocky start. Not anymore.
No, we're good
we
now.
were just out there, just between the foundation and the society. We were just, Caleb Downs, are you kidding me? And Julian
Quinshon, Judkins.
and Judkins. I mean, we're getting stuff we don't even need. And then you lose Bill O'Brien, and who do you get? Chip freaking Kelly with Ryan Day's fingerprint. And then you have if you took these pieces and said to any head coach or any fan base in the country, hey, is that national championship material? They would say, absolutely. You just described an SEC school.
Yeah.
All right. If anything, our staff is more star-studded than their staffs. All right. Fast forward. What else you had brought up, Corey, is, that the title is the standard, right? And that we're always just right there. Well, we were right there before all these pieces. Oh, we're just a missed targeting call on Marv against Georgia, winning the game. Oh, we're just a couple bad calls in the Clemson game against Win, which I do believe that's true. But we did all of it, and we're still just, if and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. We changed. We moved heaven and earth, and nothing changed. If anything, we're winning 4 points. Corey, do you think about this? I thought about this earlier when you were describing the defensive stats, and I went, oh, my goodness. If we don't have 9 tackles for a loss, the offense might not carry us past Nebraska.
13 tackles for a loss.
13. If we don't have all 13 of those, we might lose the game. If Dylan Raiola hits a guy or two, we lose the game. We're at least in overtime.
Yep.
Wow.
And by the way, why can't we buy a kicker, for the love of God? Why can't we get a kicker?
That kid kicked it to the cheerleaders, man. And
I don't know where he was.
This is Corey, and this is my other complaint. 6 out of 7 games. You can't tell me we came out in game 1 versus Akron and looked complete. Now the scoreboard says it's a pounding, but I mean, come on.
I was trying to chalk that up to it's first game.
It's week 1. It is week 1. Yeah. It is week 1. Week 1 lies, but there were issues.
There were.
All right.
There were.
Then we come around. I think the next game was Western Michigan.
Yeah, and we crushed them, obviously. And
it was a great game. It was. I mean, I can't.
No, you, me, and Lisa and Steve were in the man cave at Steve's house.
Yeah. That game was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Marshall, again, dominant scoreboard, but there were some just stuck in the mud, just spinning on tile.
Defense was showing some holes. Yeah.
Yep. And then you have Iowa, 7 points at half. Or no, was it Michigan State first, then Iowa? Michigan State wasn't that bad, but there were a few moments where it felt like we weren't taking the game and controlling it. Honestly, that pass from Devin Brown, that spectacular one-handed catch from J.J. Smith, that was like the catalyst. If not for that play, that game starts to look different.
Yeah.
So
it takes a freak play from a freak player. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. If that doesn't happen, that game looks different. Iowa, we're up 7-0 at halftime.
Yep.
So, and then Oregon, obviously we lose and left some, and we could have lost it worse. Then this game, tons of issues. So 6 out of 7 games, there were issues. In my mind, Corey, that's a program regression because we've given them everything. You said it was Kyle McCord, insert Will Howard. You said it was this, change that. You said it was Kerry Combs. We got the number one guy we all wanted. I'm not going to hindsight and say Jim Knowles wasn't the right move because at the time I wanted him, he seemed like obviously the right answer. We have all the pieces, and at 6 of the 7 games, we're having issues. What? So Corey, where do you go from here? Can you wring out any kind of hope out of this, or do you just go 2014? Just say 2014 for the next 9 minutes.
All right, 2014. Where do you go from here? You have to just this is where I got to look at that right now. obviously there's some serious alarms going off. Clearly, not even denying that. The goals we have are still in front of us, technically speaking, they are. But we have to let the season play out. And with what you've given Ryan Day, I'm sorry, the pressure's on, but pressure's on. You have to go and win the Big Ten to get us to the playoff. You have to. We haven't even seen we haven't seen Indy in 3 years. This is ridiculous. I understand the asterisks. I understand the Connor Stallions crap. I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Michigan stinks this year. And they added Oregon, and Oregon's really good. I had to give Dan Lanning and all them all credit because they're getting better. They're just smacking Illinois that just beat Michigan. Now, Michigan stinks, don't get me wrong, but Illinois still beat them. And Illinois probably a little overrated, but Oregon's still smacking them. Can we beat Oregon? Yeah, we have the talent to do it. But I don't know, without Jimmy Simmons, maybe not. I don't know. But that's the alarming thing is we have not solved the offensive line issue at Ohio State, and it used to be a source of pride for Ohio State. Like we always had really good offensive lines dating back to the 90s. But right now it's just average at best, and sometimes it looks comical. I think what you said in the group chat was perfect. And when you showed the clip, and it's like their first day. It's like they never.
When they're trying to run, Ross Fulton called it super counter, and they're like running it. You remind me of it in boot camp in the Navy. We do this thing called forward counter march that we practice for graduation, and like basically you're lined in these rows and you march and you interweave like that, and it looks really cool. You could imagine what our first time trying.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it was Zen at the time, but it was actually Bennett Christian who was just standing in Quinshon's way. And I'm like, I was like, what are you doing? Anyway, but that's obviously a different topic. But where you go from here, you just have to let the season play out. If we don't make the Big Ten title game, you got to get rid of Ryan Day. If you get to the title game and lose it, you got to have that discussion and say, I don't think he's the guy. You get to the playoff, you're one and done. I don't think he's a guy. This is too good of a roster. This isn't a rebuilding year where we can say 2014 legitimately was an overachieving year for Urban as a coach. Back to 100%. Nobody, when Braxton Miller went down for the season, nobody gave that team a chance. Not one person. I even said to my friend at the time, who was a Florida State fan who had just won a national title, I said, well, you guys enjoy that first playoff because we ain't getting there. Because when Braxton went down, and so happens JT was a quality college quarterback, best year ever as a freshman, and then it went again with Ohio State tradition. It went downhill, but then Cardale comes out of nowhere and is like, wait a minute, Zeke goes crazy. I mean, the story, but still, it's like it was an overachieving year. It didn't make sense that we won.
No, 2 weeks before we're in a dogfight with Indiana 2 weeks before Michigan game. You know what I mean? Like just goofy stuff like that.
And I think the week before that we were struggling with Minnesota. It was like nothing made sense. We weren't that good. It was like we're gonna probably get to a really good bowl game. That's what I thought. Make the playoffs. The rest is history. Won the Big Ten with the most awesome football game to ever watch as a Buckeye fan. 59-0 Wisconsin, but. But again, that's another thing is typically speaking, not always, but Urban's teams seem to get better at some point. Not all the time,
yeah.
Most of the time. Yeah, not
always. Somebody in the chat's going,
31-0.
Yeah, like we get it, guys. We get it. Let me see Ryan Day get there with an offensive line.
Ryan Day is not going 12-0 with that 2012 roster. Not a chance. Not a chance. No. And that's just why I was like, and I love Birmingham, but when he's trying to compare resumes, I'm like, dude, don't compare Urban to Brian Day.
That was the dumbest
argument. Oh my goodness.
I was like, you just posted all the reasons why Urban was better and then tried to make it like he wasn't much better. I don't know.
Ryan has a really good regular season record. That's it. But the Big Ten is
and no major letdowns. Yeah. And this is what I will say to those who are like, hey, if you want to fire Ryan Day, who do you go get? And I will say decent argument. I'm not saying get rid of him now because I don't want to get stuck in that
we got to see how the season plays out.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. But even if we barely miss a Big Ten championship, and I don't want to go through what
I'm willing to risk at that point. I'm willing to go with somebody else and risk it. Go get Matt Campbell from Iowa State or whatever. try something different because it's just not getting there.
This is what I'll say in favor of that. When people say, well, who do you go get? I say, listen, guys, it's a race. We're drag racing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You gave Ryan Day one of the top 2 fastest cars. If he finishes second and third and fourth, doesn't mean he's the second and third and fourth best driver. It means he just did the status quo. So what you're telling me is it's hard to find a status quo driver.
Yep.
You know how many coaches out there are going, give me what he has, and I can guarantee what he's done is at least my minimum.
Yep.
Do you know how? And at this point, like, I'm not huge on like a Luke Fickell. I think Luke Fickell can drive the 4th fastest car to a number 4 finish.
Yeah,
I think Matt Campbell could. There's a lot of people that can. What has Ryan Day done where you say he is equaled he is equally as good as the things around him are good,
or is equally as good as the standard is at Ohio State?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if he was as good at football as the roster did spend money, or as Jim Knowles is supposed to be at defense, or as Chip Kelly does no offense, like, you know what I mean? Then I think you're at least playing for national titles more often. I will say this in his defense, Corey. When you look at him, when you watch him, when you listen to him, besides that stupid crap about we're just hoping to steal one from Oregon in the 4th quarter.
Don't remind me, please.
Yeah, I might hurt myself.
Yeah, that one hurts.
But most of the time, and then in the offseason, he's a pretty good GM. When he brought in Sane, he got the money, and then he brought in these other players. You see that, and you're like, this dude knows football. He knows program management. He knows what he's doing. It's a little bit almost like the Tim Beck effect. Everybody said you sit down with Tim Beck and you go, man, that guy's really smart. You got to bring him on.
Actually, he is the OC at Vanderbilt, and they're pretty good this year. So
that's crazy, right? Yeah. So I, in his defense, I will say he doesn't come across as a dud when you hear him and watch him.
No,
but
I agree.
The product just doesn't seem to get there, and it's a little baffling to me.
To me, Ryan Day sounds impressive half the time. You know, it's like, no, the guy knows his stuff. Like, remember when we heard Hafley for the first time? We said, enjoy him while he's here. That guy's not going to be here long. You knew it. You knew it just by listening to him. And by the way, now he's the Packers DC, and he's awesome.
Is this the first time in your adult since the Super Bowl run where you were like, I can count on the Packers defense? Count on them.
Yeah. Well, they tried with Mike Patine, but didn't work. And then, of course, Joe Barry was the dumbest hire in Green Bay history. And then I said at the time, but before they hired, right as they hired him, I said, that's dumb, stupid hire. And I was right. Then they got Jeff Hafley.
Yeah.
When the Hafley got hired, I was telling, as a Buckeye fan, obviously, I told every Packer fan I could get my hands on. I was like, dude, you're going to love this guy. He's awesome. And by the way, Green Bay freaking loves him right now. The last 5 games, guys, 22 combined points allowed. That's sick.
Yeah. That's amazing, the NFL. So I don't know where we go from here. I feel like we've worked through it enough, Corey. I will say this. Maybe this is next week. You run 2 jet sweeps with Emeka and Jeremiah Smith apiece, minimal. You got to get some kind of
and not game. To Zen's side.
No, gosh, no. And maybe if you have 2 people flanking him.
I can't even believe this. I'd rather run towards Fryer. This is what I'm at now with this team.
I think you got to run some jet sweeps with that. I would say screens, but here are the things. Ohio State's no good at them. Since 2019, we haven't been able to run them. I don't trust Fry to teach his O-line how to run them, so we can't run them. You got to have some – maybe a tunnel screen.
That's
you got to have some jet sweeps.
Is Fry gone at the end of the year?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Unless he turns into a baller, then yeah. You got to run some quick stuff. You got to run QB power. You got to run zone reads. This is time for Chip Kelly and Ryan Day to earn their paycheck. Like, I don't like gimmicks. I'm not a gimmick guy. We had that debate about being creative and like, you know me. I just want to be, when you're better than the guy next, when you cost us $20 million, just go blow him off the ball.
Yeah.
I don't like being gimmicky. We need to
If I
start
have to
getting gimmicky.
scheme you into doing well when you're making $20 million, so we got a problem.
Right. But with this O-line, it's time for scheme and gimmicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's time to protect, the
lot
women
of
and children.
Get them out of the pocket. Yeah, exactly.
And you got a mobile quarterback, if anything. Like, this is time for the Tom Herman, JT Barrett, let's protect his weaknesses and move the chains playbook. I don't care if you got to run 2 tush pushes on 3rd and 2 to move the chains. Like, this is where we're at. And then you try to steal one at Happy. Listen to me. You try to steal one at Happy Valley. That's what it is at this point. And you try to like build on a little momentum here and there. You see who maybe emerges as a secret weapon. Does G. Scott become a little bit of a hidden dime, secret weapon? Does Carnell Tate or Brandon Ennis, can Caleb
Tate
Downs,
had a good game, by the way. Nice for him.
Yeah. Caleb Downs, can you put him on offense and maybe give a jet sweep to him?
Can he play left tackle? If Lathan Ransom can rush the passer, we could put Caleb Downs at left tackle.
But I think that's where we are. We gimmick, we beg, borrow, and steal. By hook or crook, we get one in Happy Valley. And then like, I'm not so sure there's a drop-off from Penn State to Indiana this year. So then you're going to have to do it again, and then you're going to have to survive until late November.
It's going to be Penn State, then a couple of gimme games with Northwestern and Purdue, and then it's Indiana. Yeah, so it's Indiana's right. Indiana's right before the rivalry game.
Yeah. So, all right, Corey, I want to give you the last word. You got anything?
I say this every podcast now because I mean it with all my heart. I know the games can be frustrating, but please enjoy it when you get to watch it with your family and friends. We don't get very many of these. So,
yeah, maybe you take my approach where you're like, hey guys, we're just happy to be here. We're Penn State fans. We're Iowa fans now, where we say, look, we're just happy for a dub. Or you can go on being angry. You pay a ticket, you pay for the cable subscription, you watch the game, you cheer however you want. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life, but I will tell you, you do need to subscribe to this channel and come back and see us next time. As always, goodbye, God bless, and go Bucks.